I had received a lot of requests from y'all to sit down and do an interview, but it was just, there was too many and it was going to take a long time, so I figured, at least for this first one, which is just the introductory one, that we could kind of do it in this format. And I wanted it to be a sit-down interview. I didn't want to stand behind the podium. I wanted to be able to just kind of have some candid, frank discussion with y'all. And that's kind of the way I see my media relations plan going forward. So I think this is a good start to that. And so I'll start by saying David Pughes, P-U-G-H-E-S. I've been here for, it'll be 26 years in November. Currently the Executive Assistant Chief. I'm now tapped to be the Interim Chief of Police until whatever time comes next year that they're able to do the process and find a new chief. So I've been in the job as Executive Assistant Chief for about 14 months, where I worked directly under Chief Brown. I had all of the patrol divisions and all of the Strategic Deployment Bureau, which is really the operational aspects of the department. So having done that for the last 14 months, I feel like I'm prepared to be able to step in and take over in the interim period. I feel confident that I'll be able to handle that and move the department forward while we look for a new police chief. That being said, I've already made it pretty clear that I won't be applying for the police chief's job when that selection process opens. I'm very happy with my current position on the department as the Executive Assistant Chief. I like the ability to run the operations on a day-to-day basis here in the Dallas Police Department. As the Chief of Police, I've already found out in the first 2 days that most of your time is spent away from this building and over at City Hall or at other places, and so you really don't have the time to sit down and really run the department and be able to figure out things from a strategic standpoint. You have to defer that to others, and that's the role that I've assumed for the last 14 months, and I enjoy it and I want to stick with it. The other side of that is more personal that I'll share with you. It's being the police chief in Dallas is, as you know, it's the 7th largest police department in the country, and you really, to be successful, you have to put the police department first. That has to be your primary priority in life, is to put the police department first. I have kids that are 13 and 15 years old, so at this time in my life, it's just not right. I have those two kids are already making a sacrifice, even in my position as Executive Assistant Chief, where I miss some of their events and their games and their concerts and things like that. But that's part of it. I accept that. I'll probably live to regret that later. But as of right now, that just comes with the territory and the position I have. But I'm not willing to, at this point, take that additional step and miss everything. The timing is not right in my life. So that's the reason. I'm sure that was one of the first questions everybody had, was I going to do that? And if not, why not? So that's kind of it from both the professional and personal standpoint. So getting all that out in the open, I don't know much more of a frame of reference. I'll give you just a quick briefing or update as to my career. I was recruited. I lived in Colorado. I was recruited by the Dallas Police Department, who came out to Colorado and came out here and tested and joined the department in November 26, 1990, and did about, I think it was around 7 years in patrol. Became a field training officer, enjoyed training officers, and wanted to go into the investigative side, and got an opportunity to be a detective and went and did that for a while, and then got promoted to sergeant, and you go back to patrol as a sergeant. Went and was a patrol supervisor for a little bit of time, and went back into the investigative side as an investigative sergeant, and then got promoted to lieutenant and went back to patrol. And did that for several years, and went to the investigative bureau and did some of the stuff that that y'all probably recall with regards to eyewitness identification reform that we did here on the Dallas Police Department. We had all those exonerations that were going on in Dallas County. That was we needed to make some changes and some real serious changes to that protocol, and so we did, and we were seen as really one of the leaders throughout the country in making those changes and ensure that we were able to stop these wrongful identifications and wrongful convictions that were taking place. After that, I went to Public Integrity Unit as a lieutenant, and then I went to the Homicide Unit as a lieutenant, and ultimately got promoted out of that position to Deputy Chief. Went back to patrol, took over the Northwest Patrol Division as Deputy Chief. Loved it, really enjoyed my time as the division commander out there. And then we ran into some problems at our police academy, and so Chief Brown moved me out to the police academy, and we worked really diligently out there to ensure that we got that place turned around, and we did. And ultimately, I was promoted out of the training academy to this executive assistant chief position. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell, and the role that I've stepped into as the interim chief was unexpected. I didn't see this coming. I didn't anticipate that Chief Brown was going to retire. But when he called me and he said that he was retiring and that I was going to be taking over as the interim chief, I thought, well, this will be a challenge. And that's kind of the way I see it today, is that it's going to be a challenge. The department faces a lot of things going forward that are going to make it very challenging to run the department in the interim, but I've got a great leadership team that's with me. One person can't do this job. They can't run the department and try to control everything that needs to be controlled. So the leadership team is extremely important, and I've got great people in place that I trust that we'll all work together and get the department down the road, keep going the direction that we want to go. So philosophy, not too much has changed from my philosophy from Chief Brown's philosophy. The community engagement piece is still at the front and center, foremost. We have to continue that effort and even expand upon that a little bit. I want to make sure that we continue to build the trust. That I believe that we have built trust over the years that Chief Brown has been here, but the trust can be broken down in one incident or one day. So you can never stop trying to build upon that trust. So that'll be an important aspect of going forward. And then we can talk about some of the challenges the department faces. But I talked more than I really wanted to in the intro. I wanted to give you guys a chance to ask your questions. And so as I understand it, we'll kind of go around, let each person ask the questions, see where our time's at after that, and go forward. So
good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
You talked about some of the challenges, and certainly with the numbers that have been changing every month as people are leaving the department. Where are you with the task force, leaving those things in place, or returning resources to the individual divisions, Chief?
As of right now, based on the attrition numbers, I feel pretty comfortable leaving the Violent Crime Task Force, the Property Crime Task Force in place. I think that we're managing, our response times are still under control. I think it's important to leave that Violent Crime Task Force in place. We're still battling the violent crime issues here in Dallas, just like they are across the country and Canada, where everyone's seeing an uptick in the violent crime rate. And so I'm not prepared to pull back on the Violent Crime Task Force. I think that we've looked at shifting some things in the Violent Crime Task Force and maybe having them look at some different areas, expanding the gang unit out a little bit, some things like that we might change up a bit, but it'll stay in place.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
Is there anything you can touch on specifically? It's a position as interim. It's been said you may still be an interim chief for a year or certainly many months. Is there something that you want to kick off, a particular task force or change in patrol ideology that you want to kind of make a mark on and and take advantage of this opportunity that you have in your career? Something that's different from Chief Brown, or something that's different that the Dallas Police Department hasn't seen that you think may make a difference in keeping crime under control?
Possibly. It depends on where we're at. As a department, you have to constantly evolve what is taking place out in the community. And even this year alone, as you follow the department, you've seen where our focus has had to shift and adapt and adjust to what's going on. It's either violent crime, it's a homeless issue, it's a loose dog issue, it's panhandling. All of those at some point during this year alone have been a priority and a focus. So going forward, a couple of the things that I see as a priority that we'll probably need to focus on more than we are now is fugitive apprehension. I want to look at that and see how we can develop some programs and put some personnel in place to really kind of ramp that up. I think that when we look at it from a violent crime perspective especially, it's very important that when you have those people out there and you're able to obtain warrants for their arrest, you've got to track them down and put them in jail before they commit more offenses. So that is something that I'm definitely going to look at expanding. We've already talked about it, and that's one thing. The other thing is I want to keep everything we have in place right now as it relates to youth programs, community engagement, but I want to do something new and I want to do something different, but I want it to be an addition. I don't want it to replace something that's currently there. And we met with some folks yesterday, and I want to look at establishing some corporate, private, public partnership things where we all work together, not necessarily to raise funds or anything like that, but work together from the community aspect, where we put something together where we all come together, the corporate world, the private sector, the citizens that live and work in the city, and the police department. And I think that we would like to put together something where we bring everybody out to the police academy and we talk about some of the training. We let them experience some of that. We get them to have a better understanding of what the officers face, what the challenges are, what the legal limitations are for the police officers. And then after we have that, we do some, we've got some team building that has taken place there and some rapport, and then we can sit down and we can have some real valid discussion about what's going on and perceptions and how things work. And I think that'll pay dividends as opposed to let's just come and sit down and try to talk. But I think if we develop some understanding and some rapport and then begin the dialogue and the conversation, we'll be in a better place. So that's definitely something that I want to kick off that's new that we haven't done before. Okay.
Chief, gosh, I've known you since you were a sergeant, so seeing you here in this position now is amazing. One of the things I wanted to ask you that I've seen over the last few years at the department is the morale. And if you talk to officers on the street, that seems to be one of your greatest challenges, because if you talk to officers day in and day out, the morale is low, that's what you're hearing. Part of it is the pay, part of it is the pension. Coming into this, do you change the way your management style, perhaps in a softer approach in how you deal with the officers, or how are you going to be different than Chief Brown and helping bring morale back up in the department?
Well, I think Chief Brown and I are two different people, so I think we'll naturally have some changes as it relates to just how people perceive our leadership. And I think that morale, from my perspective, is we've almost gotten beyond morale to a place where it's more of a extreme frustration, nervousness, and there's things that are, a lot of it is outside of my control as it relates to the pay and the pension issues that are really causing officers anxiety. But I have to be able to express to them that I understand that frustration and that fear, and the fact that a lot of their friends are leaving and going other places. A lot of the senior people that are concerned about the pension are retiring. These are people that the young officers have looked up to. So, and then the change in leadership itself. That transitional change is unsettling for some officers. And, you know, a lot of officers don't know me, and so they don't know what to expect. So I think there's a lot of apprehension right now, and all I can try to do, some of the things I can't fix, some of the things that they bring to me, I will be able to try to make a difference or hear them out. And I told some people from the associations the other day, I said, we're not going to agree all the time. We will have different philosophies on how something should be handled. And I said, but I'll explain to you why my decision is what it is. And I said, I want you to leave this room maybe not agreeing with my decision, but understanding why I made the decision. You'll have a good basis of knowledge of that there's something supporting why I just told you that I had to do what I have to do. And I think as long as we can come to that understanding, people understand that we're not always going to agree. But if I give you the backstory of why I think it's important or why I have to do what I have to do, I think that's going to go a long way.
Chief, in your years of service and now sitting in this particular seat, explain to me from your vantage point what you see as the #1 issue affecting effective policing for the people of this city. What is the #1 issue concerning public safety for the people who finance the rank and file of this police department?
Trust. That's the part that concerns me more than anything. Our crime rate could be down 25% this year versus last year. And if the people that we're out there serving don't trust us and are afraid to call 911 because they don't know who's going to show up and how they'll be treated or what's going to happen, if we get to that point, then we've completely lost it, and all our other efforts are for naught. And so when we have certain groups out there that are protesting and are claiming that the police can't be trusted, we have to work double hard to be out in the community and talking to the masses and ensuring them that they can trust their police department and that they can trust the officers. But you can't just talk that, you have to actually show it. And the big piece of that is accountability. You know, this is a human business. Police officers are human, and oftentimes we forget that these are just men and women out there trying to do the job. And it's a difficult job that most people don't want to do. So there's a huge human element to policing that sometimes gets put on the back burner because of the uniform, the equipment, everything dehumanizes police officers. So we have to make a huge effort to show the human side of things and understand that on the human side of things come mistakes. People make mistakes, that happens. But you've got to hold people accountable for mistakes, and you absolutely have to hold people accountable that do things wrong. If an officer does something wrong intentionally, we've got to hold them accountable. Otherwise, the trust is broken, and it doesn't matter if we walk around the community and shake hands and get to know people. There'll still be that element of distrust. So you have to handle the trust issue inside and outside the department. Yes, sir.
Well, you're in this seat now that's had a national spotlight on it for 3 months or so, and Chief Brown, has kind of become this national hero. Would that be safe to say? How does it feel kind of to be the guy following the guy? Does that make sense?
Makes you nervous. It's extremely difficult to try to come in and fill the shoes of anyone, much less somebody that has gained the kind of notoriety and acceptance and appreciation that Chief Brown gained. So you step into it saying, there's no way that I can have that same kind of rapport with everyone, because the outpouring and the expression of respect that came to Chief Brown is absolutely amazing. So I'm not even trying to get close to that. I'm just trying to do the job to the best of my ability, where everybody says, you know what, while he filled in for Chief Brown and before the new chief came, he really did a good job. We could trust him. He was fair. The officers appreciated the way he did the job, and that's all I'm looking for.
We have heard that inside the department, many officers, the relationship between Chief Brown and the officer wasn't so good because of the issue about the morale and everything. How you are going to change that?
There'll be officers that say that the relationship with me isn't so good either. We have 3,500 officers, and even when I was the commander of the smaller Northwest Patrol Division, where we had 300 officers, you have, as the chief level officer, you have to make some decisions that people don't agree with. And oftentimes, if officers don't agree, or if you have to discipline them, that turns them off to you immediately. And oftentimes, you can't change their opinion of you because you had to discipline them or create a policy that the officers didn't believe in. And we have that on the department. Not all the officers agree with our policies as it relates to vehicle pursuits and foot pursuits and a number of different things. But you have to understand that you're going to have those people that are your detractors, and you're going to have those people that are your supporters, but you treat them all the same. As the police chief, it doesn't matter. You look at it purely from the standpoint of, I'm a person, they're a person, we each have a job to do, and regardless of what the situation is, I'm going to respect them and hope that they respect me in return.
So to kind of piggyback on the issue with the task forces, there's also been the Operation Next Year and some of the patrol rotations and all that. I know City Hall has put out a request for bids on a staffing analysis. So what are you planning to do? Are there any immediate changes that you'll make to kind of make staffing more effective in terms of getting enough officers on the streets and not disrupting too many investigation shifts as well?
The next gear is pretty well set. The dates have already been. People have planned schedules around that, and you know, things happen that cause us to have to cancel dates with next gear. There's been several different things where we've had to rearrange. But we've also seen real positive results in both the community relations aspect and the crime numbers that we see immediately following a next gear deployment in the city of Dallas. And so I don't anticipate that going away through the end of the year. We will have a patrol bid, and everyone knows on the department that because of the staffing and the decreases that we'll see, that we're modifying the shifts, and we're going back to a traditional 8-hour shift on all 3 watches, days, evenings, and deep night shift. We're not going to have the luxury of having these 10-hour shifts that overlap and allow people to have 3 days off, and it puts officers in a bad position with those additional shifts because we just don't have enough people working them, and so it doesn't become safe. So we have to kind of compress that down. And so we told the officers early on that was going to happen, and I think they understand, based on the number of people who are leaving, that's what we're being required to do. But come January, the bid takes place and everything gets sorted out, then we'll look at it. Then we'll really, my staff and I, we have shifted some of the assistant chiefs around to new bureaus, and they're all evaluating their staffing, and we'll see, and keeping in mind that we are measured this year versus last year on our crime reduction and the success. The first half of this year, we were battling crime in a big way. It was huge increases. So my hope is that in the first half of next year, when we're compared against those figures from last year, we won't see a huge increase or spike, and that'll allow us to kind of analyze what we're doing and do some things strategically and change a few things from what we're doing now. But as of right now, we're going to keep everything in place that we have through the end of the year. And then once the bid takes place, we'll reevaluate where we're at with all the task forces. I want the staff to kind of think of some inventive things to do that are going to help us, because we have to think differently as we go forward, and we have to manage the crime in the city and all our programs with a smaller workforce. And it can be done, but it's going to take some effort on our part to really buckle down and look at the very best way to get the most out of what we've got.
Chief Brown was one of the longest tenured chiefs with this department in modern time, really. In this short time you've had since you've been transitioning in, how much conversation have you had with him, and how much guidance have you tried to get from him? And going forward, how much do you plan on communicating with him to try to make the transition easier?
You know, for the last 14 months, I've had a lot of contact with him, and so that was kind of, I think, preparation, not knowing that I would step into this spot, but at the same time, it prepared me well to step into the spot. And since I've only been doing it 2 days, I haven't contacted him yet, but he did say that he's here for me, and that anytime I need to call him, anytime I need to talk to him, that, you know, the door is always open. He's here to help me. He is retired from this department, but he will never give up the thought of being a Dallas police officer and being the Dallas police chief. So I have no doubt in my mind that anything happens that I need some guidance on, that he's right there, and he'll help me through it. I have no doubt at all. Now I'm hoping that doesn't happen, and that I'm able to handle things, and we don't face a huge crisis where we're having to reach out and try to get things, but we'll see.
After July 7th, Chief Brown really stressed how important it was to him that the officers were getting the help that they needed, talking to people. I'm assuming that that's going to continue to be a priority for you.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of things in place right now. We've gotten a lot of assistance from many different sources to ensure that our officers are okay going forward, because we don't know what to expect. No department has faced something like this that our officers faced, and there's a whole lot of things that we just don't know how we're going to be affected 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now. Everybody was affected in a different way. We had people that were affected because they were there in the middle of it, injured. We had people that were affected because they weren't there, and they have a tremendous amount of guilt that they weren't there that night to try to help. So from all aspects of it, we've got officers that I think are trying to work through things, and it's not a quick fix, but we do have things in place to ensure that a long-term strategy to ensure that we have our officers are taken care of.
Chief, so does your background in like switching different roles and positions, does that kind of help you out going forward, like spending less time here and more time at City Hall?
It helps. I think, you know, Chief Brown tried to put in a pretty robust succession plan so that when he took his chief level officers, he wanted them to have experienced 3 different aspects of law enforcement. And one was the crime fighting aspect, the operational aspect, and 2 was the investigative aspect, and you need to have experience and deal with criminal investigations, and then 3 was the administrative side. All 3 of those are equally important when you get up into the highest levels, because they all come across your desk, and if you don't have a good working knowledge of that, you're going to be behind the curve. So fortunately for me, being able to transfer around and experience all those things have put me in a good place to be able to handle all the different stuff that I expect will come across my desk.
Chief, what are you going to
try to do during your time as chief to recruit more officers? Are there like new strategies going forward during the time that you're able to make those decisions?
There are new strategies that we've already put in place, and one of those strategies is being very, very strategic about where we go to recruit. We're not going to just travel the country and recruit, but when we start looking at where we're going to have our best success based upon what's going on in the country at the time, what law enforcement agencies are in that area, and what they're paying, so that we can ensure that we're competitive, and then the lateral program. Every law enforcement agency is moving more and more towards a lateral program, and so we're in the process of creating a lateral program that we hope will, if the pay increases come, we'll be able to elevate those people that can come in on a lateral program, and we'll attract more officers from other agencies to come to the city of Dallas, as opposed to all the other agencies attracting our officers. So that's one of our big goals, and I think we're going to make great progress in both the recruiting aspect and the lateral transfer.
All right, thank you, Anna.
We got to get him to the next speed.